What's up, everyone? Aaron Nagler here for PackersNews.com, live on Facebook after the Packers fall in a dramatic fashion this week to the Steelers by 3 points. A 53-yard field goal does them in the waning seconds here in Pittsburgh at Heinz Field. And that's 6 losses for the Packers. The playoffs essentially start for Green Bay next week against the Buccaneers because they cannot afford to lose any more games if they want a realistic shot of being in the race when Aaron Rodgers potentially comes back. Before the game, the biggest news of the day was Rodgers throwing out on the field prior to the game. He surprised a lot of us. We were all talking amongst ourselves after he put on a display that can only be described as full of zip and power. And Rodgers looks surprisingly ready to throw a football. Now, taking a hit, obviously, that's something else, and that is what will ultimately determine his availability, that and the Packers' standing. But as far as the game tonight, Mike McCarthy's crew came out and took it to the Steelers, and they clearly, once again, much like back in 2010, when they had to go into New England with Matt Flynn as their starter, they gave them a game. I think a game most people probably weren't expecting, but in the end, they weren't able to drive the field, get that decisive winning score. The Steelers were, and that's the difference in the ballgame. Adam starts us with the refs missed helmet-to-helmet call. Yes, that was quite the conversation piece with Mike McCarthy after the game. Clearly affected what they were trying to do in the 2-minute drill there on that final drive. McCarthy saying that he was obviously concerned for his quarterback after the hit, making sure he was okay. The refs didn't stop play, didn't deem it necessary to send Hundley to the sideline, which I found kind of curious. I thought that was supposed to be done by an independent observer. But play resumed, and after that, Hundley said he took responsibility for not letting Jamal Williams and company know exactly what kind of mode they were in, reminding him that you should stay in bounds in that situation. Obviously, that little bit of difference, if Williams stays in bounds, most likely they're ready going into overtime. But with the 13 seconds that they needed there at the end, that was the difference in the ballgame. It's way too easy for the Steelers to move the ball on the last drive. It is. You're protecting the shot, and that's kind of the problem. You don't have anyone who can cover Antonio Brown. I mean, I think that's pretty clear. And you're playing 2 safeties deep because you don't want them to get anything easy over the top. But because of that, they were able to make lots of hay underneath. And for whatever reason, the Packers just don't have the athletes to match up there. Why not flagging the Hundley helmet-to-helmet hit? I'm sure the Packers will be asking that of the league office. And it is really interesting when you think of Hochul's history of protecting quarterbacks, except for Cam Newton. He is one who has often erred on the side of caution, high caution, when it comes to quarterback hits. So that's undoubtedly something that the Packers will send to the league, and I would not be surprised if T.J. Watt was delivered a FedEx envelope with a nice fine notice for him from the league on Friday. Silver lining, the defense played very well against a very potent Steelers offense. Robert, I agree. I think they played much better than I think a lot of people were expecting, but at the end of the day, they still gave up over 400 yards and 31 points. That's not good in any book. And there are teams that have, while the Steelers are potent, there is no doubt, a better defense would have found more ways to slow them down. Why did Capers send a blitz when we just needed to hold them from giving up? Well, he sends a blitz. Any blitz he sends is because he can't get home with 4. I don't think that's a big mystery. He's kind of trapped between a rock and a hard place when it comes to that. If he doesn't send a blitz, then Ben Roethlisberger just sits back there all day, and the receivers have all day to uncover. The one sack they did have was a coverage sack. Hochul is the Nathan Peterman of referees. That works. Pass rush was non-existent tonight. Yes, Corey, that's absolutely correct, which is why Capers had to blitz. And even when he blitzed, it wasn't very effective. Devon House looks slow. Yeah, he looks slower and slower as the year goes on. Mike McCarthy is a hell of a coach. People are nuts saying he should be gone. He coached this game well. I would say, for the most part, I agree. I do question the decision on the 57-yard field goal attempt. I probably would have punted, trying to play field position, trying to flip the field there. But I understand his reasoning. He said after the game, I asked him about it, he said Mason Crosby was hitting from that range in pregame. It was right on the fringe of where he was hitting. And he wanted to get points. You know, it's late in the third quarter, trying to make it a two-possession game. I understand his thinking there. I don't agree with it, but I understand what he's thinking. Why did we go for the field goal? Adam, as I just said, that's what I literally just talking about. Mike McCarthy, that's what he said. It was right on the range that Crosby was hitting in pregame, and he wanted to get the points to make it a two-possession game. Where are our adjustments in-game? I thought they made a few, actually. They went to a lot of the spread stuff there on the 12-play, 77-yard touchdown drive that Hundley looked fantastic on, by the way. When they got to that big fourth down throw to Adams, all of that stuff, that's out of the spread, and made a couple nice adjustments at the line of scrimmage as far as protection goes. There were little adjustments here and there. I think McCarthy did get away from the running game a little bit there in the second half, and I think that kind of bit him a little bit. But to that end, I thought Jamal Williams played well, and I thought for the most part Jason Spriggs, who's been a whipping boy for a good reason over the past 3 or 4 months, I thought he played well. So there are definitely bright spots, but they don't do you much good in the win-loss column. Third downophobia. That's a good way to put it. Last time we lost in Pittsburgh, we got in as a wild card and won the Super Bowl. There you go. Martinez is amazing. Martinez is really good at being around the ball and making tackles, and he obviously had the great Johnny on the spot interception. But he, much like A.J. Hawk before him, does have the tendency to, allow yards after contact quite a little bit. And that's kind of the one kind of glaring kind of hole in his game, where if he hits a guy in the hole, it's very rarely that the guy is stopped. It's often the guy lunges forward for 2 or 3 more yards. Now, obviously, they get paid too, and that's going to happen. But he overall, yes, you are correct. He is a playmaker, and he's a guy on this defense who is absolutely sideline to sideline, and does definitely give them something that they were lacking at the position over the last few years. I'm actually proud of the Packers for this hard-fought battle on the road. It's not crazy. I think most people, including myself, thought this was going to be an absolute snooze fest because the Steelers were going to absolutely blow the Packers off the field. And that certainly didn't happen tonight. Moral victories, what have you, whatever you want to call them, they don't count for much in the NFL. But the Packers did show something, which is, I think, more than most people expected coming into this game. Nobody's underdog game, Chris. I would agree. It was very akin to the nobody's underdog game of 2010 in New England. Talk about the horrendous end of the first half. Man, you sound like a bad reporter. Talk a little bit about this. I will say I understood McCarthy's thinking there for the last play call. What I don't understand is you get 12 yards on first down on the very first play of that drive, and you've got 3 timeouts. Okay, then you use your first timeout, so now you've got 2 timeouts. Everything after that, I didn't quite understand what his thinking was play calling wise, but ultimately when it got down to however many seconds left and they just let the clock run, that I got, because they're still on their own, pretty well on their own side of the field. You've just come off a game where Hundley has thrown a bunch of horrific interceptions. You don't want to press your luck there. You're getting the ball back at the start of the third quarter. You're tied 14-14 in a game, like I said, most people thought you had no business being in. So don't press your luck, get to the third quarter, and lo and behold, that first drive in the third quarter, they went up 21-14 on the bomb to Adams. So, like I said, I don't love it, but I understand the thinking. Kevin King headed to off-season shoulder surgery? He absolutely has to, I think. It's something that he dealt with last year in college, something that happened his freshman year, popped up again last year. Now it's obviously popping up in his first rookie year in the NFL. I don't think there's any doubt. You got to get that surgery done, get it over with, and start, moving forward. They're turning out the lights on me here, people. And sorry, they're going too fast. 352 total yards between Bell and Brown is absurd. Well, they're a really good offense, and they have a really good quarterback. And the Packers still almost won. Kind of crazy. Chances of Rodgers playing Week 15. James, if the Packers keep winning, if they win next week and the week after, etc., then maybe. I think there's a decent chance, given how he looked tonight throwing the football prior to the game. But if they lose next week, it's over. Forget it. Playoffs start next week. How many more losses before McCarthy gets pressure from the front office? I don't know. I don't think much. He and Ted Thompson are kind of tied at the hip. They're both going into the last years of their contracts. So I thought McCarthy did pretty darn well tonight, considering the circumstances. Hundley played well tonight. I thought he played well in spurts. I thought some of the same issues that we saw last week and we've seen throughout his starting tenure continue to pop up, whether it's looking at the rush or running out of pockets they had no business running out of, running into pressure. But for the most part, I thought he improved in a lot of areas. I thought he was much better at the line of scrimmage when it came to adjustments and pass protection. I thought he did a nice job taking what the defense gave him. Made some really nice throws on both of the touchdown passes. I thought, and that fourth quarter drive, the 12-play, 77-yard drive, that was a hell of a drive in a big spot. And the fourth down throw to Adams was outstanding. That's for the game, basically, to keep the game alive. So yeah, I think there's a lot that he can build on there, but I think a lot of the same issues are still prevalent in his game. What if the Packers lose to the Browns? Ralph, it's a distinct possibility. And then the sun comes up the next day. I don't know what else to tell you. Does this performance give the team a needed boost to finish strong, or was it a fluke? Keith, I wouldn't call it a fluke. I think they played well. I think they just finally succumbed at the last second to one of the best teams in the NFL. They played them toe-to-toe in their house. I mean, you can't just discount that. People, like I said, people much like myself, a lot of people thought they were going to get blown off the field. And they didn't. They gave the Steelers a game. And if all the people who said, well, they have no chance, well, clearly they had a chance. So you can't say it doesn't mean anything. And you can't say that, they didn't play well, they weren't coached well. I think all of those things happened tonight. They were playing one of the best, probably two or three best teams in the whole league at their house. So I have a hard time when I'm getting a lot of comments on social media already, talking about firing Mike McCarthy, talking about firing Ted Thompson. But it's like you didn't even watch what just happened. The 13-second time management in one drive didn't help. They were really discombobulated there at the end, mostly due to the helmet-to-helmet hit on Hundley. Is Clay coming back next year? Kyle, it's a good question. I don't know. It's quite possible that they ask him to take a pay cut in the offseason, and if he refuses, then they cut him, because there's absolutely no cap ramifications to letting him walk this offseason. Davante Adams gets paid? Scott, absolutely. And I don't know if it's going to be by the Green Bay Packers or by somebody else, but he is making money. The fact that he is continuing to produce with Hundley at quarterback tells you all you need to know. He's, whether it's in Green Bay or one of the other 31 NFL teams, someone's going to pay him. In a league where wide receivers are getting paid a whole heck of a lot of money on the open market, and also in a league where the salary cap goes up pretty much every year in $10 to $12 million increments, there is money out there to be made for Davante Adams. And as I said about a month ago, if I'm Adams, I keep balling out and try and get to free agency. And you make the Packers come to you with a strong offer. Because if they don't, some other team will. There's no doubt about it. Jennifer, Callahan. Well, that's not going to happen. Hundley played well enough for them to win tonight. You can nitpick his game up and down. We certainly will this week. It's undoubtedly he'll be under a microscope, as he is, as every NFL quarterback is, week in and week out. But the fact of the matter is he played well enough for them to win this game tonight. And as long as he does that, they're not going to be putting Callahan in anytime soon. When is Aaron Jones coming back? That's a good question. I would think another week or two. I don't think he's anywhere near ready to return. I would say at least probably 2 more weeks. I see Nelson retiring, Cobb gets traded, and Adams gets paid. I don't think any of that's going to happen. I think Adams is going to get paid, but I don't think any of those other two are going to happen. Our secondary was beat. Yes, Ian, it was. Who's the starting running back when Jones is back? Casey, I would tend to think Jones would probably take that job back, but I think what this stretch has really shown is that if and when Jones does come back, they'll have a nice kind of 1-2 punch there with Jones and Williams, and who knows where Ty Montgomery fits in. So, they have some options back there, which is a good thing. Injury updates. Tim, they didn't give us anything after the game, so that's got to be promising. When guys return, like Kevin King obviously missed time with the shoulder, but then he returned to the game, and when they return to the game, they aren't required to give us anything. Between Jones and Williams, I think we've got a true feature back next season. It's possible. Is this Capers' final season with Green Bay? I think it's a distinct possibility. That's as strong as I can put it. Only looked like he wasn't second-guessing what he saw on the field. Mark, I think he did a much better job of doing just that this week. You still saw him hesitate a couple times where he needs to see it before he throws it. Real lack of anticipation sometimes with Hundley, but I do agree. I think he did a much better job in that regard. The QB played well, but the season is just over. It's not over yet. Gotta let it play out. And they're not out of it yet. It's not looking good, but they're not out of it yet. All right, everyone. Thanks for all the questions. Make sure you're checking PackersNews.com for all the latest throughout the week. And we'll have everything from this game and going into the rest of the season. So make sure you're checking it out. Thanks a lot, everyone. Have a good night.